Hey guys, my name is Ione, and this video is going to be about how I studied for and passed the NCLEX-RN. So first off, Happy New Year everyone. I wanted to make this because I felt like there's going to be a lot of people taking the NCLEX exam in 2021, and for me personally, when I was studying for this test, I watched a lot of these kinds of videos. It kind of helped ease my anxiety hearing other people's experiences, so I hope this video can do the same for you. Before I go super into detail, I'm just gonna give a brief overview about myself. I'm 21 years old. I graduated in August of 2020 and I got my BSN degree from the Philippines. So before I could sit for the NCLEX exam, I had to do all the processing for foreign educated nurses, like with CGFNS, etc. But eventually I was able to get my authorization to test on December 1st, 2020. Then I scheduled my NCLEX exam for December 18th, and I was able to pass in 75 questions. So let me tell you all about how I studied. I know there's tons of resources out there, but for me personally, I only used 3 things when I was studying for the NCLEX. And those 3 things are the Mark K audios, UWorld, and Simple Nursing YouTube videos. I'm gonna go in depth now about each one. So for the first resource I used, which was the Mark K lecture audios, I really liked it because he gives a broader view of all the topics that could come out on the NCLEX. I really recommend listening to all of them and taking notes. I did this earlier on in my studying process, and then when it came closer to my exam, all I did was reread my notes. I did re-listen to one of the lectures the week of my test, which was the last one, Prioritization and Delegation. If you choose not to listen to his audios, that's fine, but I do really recommend listening to the last one if you can only listen to one, because he gives a great way to answer the prioritization type of question, which is when they'll give you 4 patients and then you have to pick which one is the priority to assess or treat. They were very common on my NCLEX. I got a bunch of those and I really did use his tips, so highly recommend that. So the second and most important resource I used was UWorld. The way I used it was basically a 4-step process. So I will break that down for you, but side note, I did get the 2-month package on UWorld. It looks like that, and it comes with only 1 self-assessment. So my process was, first, I went through the whole QBank 1 time. I did it systematically, meaning I did all of the mental health questions together, all of the pedia questions together, etc. And as I was answering these questions, I had it set to tutor mode. Tutor mode means that it will show the rationales right after you answer each question, because I was taking notes with every single item. If there's anything you can take away from UWorld, it's the rationales. You won't see like the same exact question on your NCLEX exam, but the information that you get from the rationales is bound to come out on the real test. So that's where I think the value in UWorld lies. It's its content and its rationales. So that was step 1. Step 1 was I did the whole QBank. Then step 2 was I did all of the incorrect items that I got wrong the first time through. And why I did this was because obviously I didn't know everything on UWorld, but I didn't want to just see it once and be like, oh, I got it wrong, and just never look at the question again. You know, I think repetition and reinforcement is really important with the information on the NCLEX, so yeah, I went through it again. I did my incorrect items the same way I did it in the first step, so I did it systematically. So all of my mental health incorrect questions and all of my pedia incorrect questions. So that was still on tutor mode, by the way. Then the third step I did was I took the self-assessment. So after I felt that I went through the whole QBank and I went through all the ones I got wrong, and reviewed the notes that I took while doing both of those things, I wanted to take my only self-assessment, and I ended up taking it according to my study calendar. I took it here, about a week and a half before my actual NCLEX. And I did that because I wanted to have time to study my weaknesses that would be revealed to me in the self-assessment. you don't want to take it right before the day of the exam, because it could probably break your confidence if you don't do so well, and you don't want those bad vibes the day before the test. So I took my self-assessment. I will show how I did on that. I got a very high chance of passing, which did make me feel good, but I wasn't done yet. So that leads me to the fourth step in my little process for using UWorld, and that was I tried to mimic the NCLEX. I made mixed 75 item tests that were no longer tutor mode, meaning that I was no longer seeing the rationale right after I answered each question. So it was just to train myself to not want that immediate gratification when you're, answering the question and, oh, did I get it right or wrong? Yeah, on the NCLEX you're not gonna know, so it's better to start training yourself to adjust to that fact. That was how I used UWorld. Side note, I really like UWorld because it literally looks like the NCLEX, like its color scheme, its format, and everything. It helped calm my nerves because when I went to sit for the actual NCLEX exam, I was trying to convince myself that I'm just taking, just another practice test on UWorld, and it helped. Right. And the third resource I used when studying for the NCLEX was Simple Nursing YouTube videos. Simple Nursing, I know they actually have like a website with paid content and they have all these study guides and whatnot. I personally did not go that route. I just decided to binge watch all their YouTube videos any chance I got. I did UWorld questions for the day, and then I chose to watch Simple Nursing YouTube videos while I was eating lunch, when I was getting ready for bed. I like them because they are animated, they are easy to understand, and their rationales were exactly like the content I was being taught on UWorld. And that was probably the main reason I like that YouTube channel. I found that they give you practice questions on Simple Nursing, and they were things that I had literally been asked on UWorld, so it just felt like it just meshed well together. So I highly recommend watching those videos. They even have a TikTok channel, so I would watch their TikToks as well when I was bored. Before I wrap up this whole segment on how I studied for the NCLEX, there's one last thing I need to say, and that is make a study plan. I'm not really the type to do this kind of thing. In nursing school, I always studied stuff the night before, so when it came to the NCLEX, I knew I couldn't do that. And what's even worse is that I didn't start intensively reviewing until the day I got my ATT, which was December 1st. And then I scheduled it later that month, and that's when I knew that I needed to actually sit down and finish the Q bank, because at the time that I got my ATT, I was still going through step 1 of my UWorld process, which was go through the whole Q bank one time. So what I did was I picked which date that I was going to be taking the self-assessment, and then I divided all the days I had left with the questions I had left on UWorld. Setting a number of questions to do each day is really important, because I found that if I just told myself I'll do as many as I feel like, I was only doing 10. So my biggest advice when it comes to using a study plan is to divide the number of questions you need to reach per day. Set a quota. You just need to set a goal. You need to hold yourself accountable. One way I was able to reach my quotas for the day, like example, on December 2nd, I needed to do 90 questions. So I used the Pomodoro method. This is the app that I used. Basically, I would make myself, study for 25 minutes straight, then for 5 minutes I got a break, and then you do that 3 times, and then on your 4th break, it's a 25-minute break. It's a longer break. So that helped a lot. I really liked this app. It did all the timing for me. I just had to follow along. So let me tell you now about the night before the exam and test day itself. So if you were like me and you watched a bunch of these NCLEX experience vlogs, you'd find that most people said that they didn't study at all the day before the exam because there's no point in cramming, etc., which is valid, and I think that's true. But if you're like me, I was very, very, very anxious. Literally the whole time I was studying, I had horrible anxiety about taking this exam, and I genuinely could not let myself not study the day before the test. Because for me, it's like I wanted to take it and never have to take it again. I needed to give my all. So it wasn't so much about cramming information, because I don't think there was anything new I could have learned the day before, but I just wanted to keep reinforcing the information that I had learned. So the day before the exam, I actually didn't do any more practice questions. I didn't, make any mixed UWorld sets. Instead, I just read my notes. I made one big, Google Doc of all my notes put together, and so I read that the day before. I tried to highlight. I didn't feel like I was overloading myself with information. The night before, that's when I really tried to pamper myself, relax. I took a nice shower, wore a fuzzy onesie to bed because why not? It made me feel safe. I prayed the rosary with my family. They were praying for my success, and watched some more videos, and that was that. I went to bed. Okay, so test day. My exam was scheduled December 18th, 2020. That is a Friday, and it was at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. So when I woke up, you'd think I would have just relaxed until the exam, but I could not. I was super anxious. I had a hard time eating my breakfast and lunch that day. So I continued to do what I was doing the day before. I was just skimming my notes, and I was trying to manifest success. This actually did calm my nerves. I wrote on a piece of paper a bunch of times, I will pass the NCLEX, I will pass the NCLEX. And I don't know, the more I wrote it, the more I felt myself calming down. So, manifesting, I guess it worked out for me. Alright, so 30 minutes before the exam, I went to the venue. Obviously, I'm taking my exam in the time of a pandemic, so I wore a mask, we were socially distanced, there were a lot of precautions taken. For the exam itself, they had made the minimum 60 items, I think for most of 2020, but by the time I took it in December, it was back to a minimum of 75 questions. So I went in there expecting to not have 75 questions because you'll get really discouraged if that's what you're aiming for and then you see number 76. So I really told myself walking in there that I'm gonna take all the questions, I'm gonna give my all. So for my venue specifically, there were booths with computers inside each one, so I couldn't see the person beside me. They'll give you headphones if you want to block out the noise. You'll get a whiteboard with a marker, a dry erase marker, and that's basically all the things you get when you take the test. So I just took the NCLEX. I got 75 questions and I don't really know how to feel. It was really hard. What I did when I got home was the Pearson Vue Trick. So I know there's a lot of people who don't do it because they want their official results. They'd rather wait for the quick results or for the board to announce the license, but I just wanted to know. So to do the Pearson Vue Trick, what you do is you go on the Pearson website and you try to register for the NCLEX again. Then when it comes to the point where you put in your credit card information, you need to put in the correct credit card info, but then change the expiration date. So on my end, I used my dad's credit card, all the right information except I made the expiration date a different month and a different year. Then what you're gonna see is a series of pop-ups. So the good pop-up looks like this. This is what my pop-up was. It's gonna say that you already have an exam existing, so you can't take it again, which basically means you passed. And then the bad pop-up, which might mean you fail, because there's actually a chance that you pass. There have been people who got a false bad pop-up, but the bad pop-up states that you put your credit card info wrong, basically meaning you failed and you are eligible to take the exam again, you just put in the wrong info. I can personally say that the PVT was legit. I did the PVT after I got the confirmation email that, oh, so you're done with the NCLEX. When I got that email, I went home, did the trick, got the good pop-up, and then continued to be anxious until 48 hours later, Sunday afternoon, I got the quick results from Pearson, which you can pay $8 for, and it'll tell you if you pass. And then also my State Board of Nursing posted my license, so that was when, I knew I really did pass. Additional information I want to share with you guys would be Number one, I recommend going into the test room knowing how the NCLEX works. I think that's another thing that helped calm my anxiety. I watched a lot of YouTube videos on how the NCLEX is graded, how you pass and how you fail. When I was answering these questions and I was getting a really hard question, I tried to tell myself that meant I was doing well, because the way the test works is that the better you do, the harder the questions they'll give you. I don't recommend taking the test and being like, wait, was that a hard or an easy level question? Like, you don't need to do that, but it's something I did take note of when I found myself freaking out around like the 30 item question mark, where I was starting to get really discouraged. I was guessing a whole bunch, but I would briefly remind myself like, okay, you know what, maybe this is a hard question, maybe I'm doing well. An additional takeaway I would tell you is, when you're in the exam room and you feel like you are failing and you walk out of there thinking you failed, you should know that's normal. It's totally normal to feel defeated after it and during it, so don't let that discourage you. You really have to tell yourself to keep going. The last tip I'd say is, it's a mental battle. I mentioned that I had really bad anxiety while I was studying and prepping for this exam, and it never went away. Like, there was never a moment where I was like, I can pass. I never really felt confident, but I tried my best to minimize my anxiety. You know, I prayed before I got into the test center room. I wore a necklace that was given to me by my roommate in college. It has, like, you know, the medical symbol on it, and it has a nurse's prayer here, so this helped, you know, calm me down. Do what you can to minimize your anxiety, because that's really the enemy in this test. The NCLEX is supposed to be a safety exam. It just wants to make sure that you have what it takes to keep your patient safe. You know, you don't have to know everything, but you have to not kill your patient. So keep those things in mind, calm down your anxiety, and you'll pass the NCLEX. I'm sure you will. Thank you so much for watching. You know, leave a comment down below if you have any questions, and I'll try to answer them. So, bye!